Hey y'all, and welcome back to another episode of There's Danger Here. I'm Leilani, and today I'm bringing you a case that I found because of some recent updates. So let's get into it, shall we? David Brom was born on October 3rd, 1979, to parents Bernard and Paulette Brom. One of four children with older brother Joe, sister Diane, and little brother Rick. David was born and raised in Rochester, Minnesota. At 16, David had friends, but spoke often of violence and was reportedly depressed. For instance, David went to lunch with a group of friends from John Marshall High School at Godfather's Pizza. There, he attempted to get a girl to go out with him to the movies that night. She declined and later told investigators David scared her and often talked about wanting to harm others, though she had gone out with him on previous occasions. Several of David's friends reported that David complained about his parents constantly making him chop wood to warm their home, while some reported alleged abuse taking place in the home. Older brother Joe, however, had been purportedly kicked out of the house about 2 years prior, and Joe and David worked in a restaurant together. According to Joe, David never said anything about any abuse going on in the home, and he himself denies any abuse going on at the time that he lived there. Though the family may have had some recent unsettlement as they were in counseling at the time. This could have been for many reasons, however, a multitude of which are not abuse related. In the beginning of 1988, David and two friends devised a plan to leave their Rochester lives behind. They were going to kill David's family, take all their money, and go to Florida. Then, when the money ran out, they were simply going to kill themselves. Later, the two friends, who were not named as they were underage, would report that they never took David's ramblings seriously. But then, David showed up at Lourdes High School on the morning of February 18th, 1988, telling them a story. He told them that the initial part of the plan was done. After getting into a fight with his parents over the heavy metal music he was listening to, he went and got an axe and killed his family. His two friends, being teens, then told others at the school about what David had said. From there, the information trickled down and was eventually reported to school counselors. From there, a welfare check was called in to the Brom residence, and in the early evening of February 18th, 1988, Olmsted County Sheriff's deputies arrived at the family home. They entered through an unlocked garage door. On the first floor, they found letters and cards kind of all scattered across the floor, which was a mess, but nothing criminal. In the bathroom on the first floor, they also discovered a black substance on the floor. This later turned out to be hair dye. Unfortunately, as they ascended the stairs to the second story of the home, they discovered the bodies of Paulette, Bernard, Diane, and Richard. Paulette and Diane were found together at the top of the stairs. Moving further into the floor, Rick was found in his bed, and his father, Bernard, in his own room. All of the victims had sustained numerous gashes in the head and upper body. Axe marks marred the doors throughout the floor. A continued search revealed the axe in the basement, sitting on top of a stack of National Geographic magazines, and forensic testing would later reveal blood from all of the family members on it. The axe handle had David's palm and fingerprints on it. At the time, they were unaware of David's ramblings at school and thought that he might be a missing person or had been abducted. However, it was quickly ruled out after the school had informed them of the information they found. A murder investigation was immediately underway, and the house was thoroughly searched. It was then that one of David's notebooks was found in the closet. In it, David wrote out what he had planned to do. The day of the murder, David had planned to pack clothes, call several friends, pack a cooler, get ice, kill his family, and bury them. Then go to the bank and get hair dye. The next day, David planned that he was going to pack his car, pick up his two friends, dye his hair, and leave. Well, David did not pick up his two friends. He did dye his hair and try and go on the run. He spent the night in a cement culvert near Valley High Drive. It was there that investigators would later find a cash card belonging to his parents, toothbrush, comb, cans of Mountain Dew, and candy. On February 19th, he was seen at the Valley High Drive post office talking on the payphone, and a witness overheard him saying, quote, "It's too late now," end quote. David was subsequently picked up by law enforcement. On the way to the police station, deputies told David they had a lot of questions, and David reportedly stated, quote, "Yeah, shoot," end quote. At the station, however, David's interview lasted a measly 3 minutes before he asked for an attorney. During his time in custody before trial, jail monitors watched David, and he was seemingly quote-unquote normal. He spoke with friends, he slept without issue, he watched TV. While he was originally going to be tried as a juvenile, his status was eventually upgraded and he would be tried as an adult. At his 15-minute arraignment, David was calm as he was charged with 4 counts of first-degree murder and 8 counts of second-degree murder, which I can say I don't understand the math on that one, but at any point, at the time of the arraignment, he did not enter a plea. During trial, David pleaded both not guilty and not guilty by reason of mental illness, meaning his trial proceeded in 2 phases. According to Justia law, quote, Phase 1 was limited to a determination of whether appellant was guilty of first or second degree murder in connection with the deaths of his parents and siblings. During Phase 1, defense counsel made an offer of proof requesting permission to introduce expert psychiatric testimony regarding appellant's capacity to premeditate his actions. The trial court denied this request, and the defense rested without offering testimony. The jury was instructed that it should not consider evidence of appellant's mental illness in its Phase 1 deliberations, and found appellant guilty of 4 counts of murder in the first degree. In Phase 2 of his trial, appellant bore the burden of proving his legal mental illness by a preponderance of evidence. The defense presented expert testimony from one psychiatrist who concluded that appellant did not understand that killing his parents and siblings was wrong when he did so, and that, therefore, he was legally insane. The state offered expert testimony from 4 psychiatrists. Of these 4 witnesses, 2 concluded that the appellant was not legally insane at the time he committed the murders, and 2 did not offer an opinion as to his legal mental illness. All of the experts agreed, however, that appellant suffered some form of mental illness or impairment. End quote. In the end, the jury convicted David on 4 counts of murder. On October 16th, 1989, the now 18-year-old was sentenced to 4 life sentences, 1 for each family member. 3 of the life sentences were to run consecutively, while the 4th ran concurrently to the 3rd life sentence. And again, I cannot find information as to why the 4th sentence was to run concurrently. But this gave David the eligibility of parole after serving 52 years, which would be in the year 2037. However, I did say we have recent updates. And in 2023, Minnesota passed a public safety bill that ended juvenile life without parole sentences. It makes those sentenced as juveniles eligible for parole after just 30 years. As a result, in January 2025, he was granted work release. During the hearing, David continued to blame his parents for his depression, stating, quote, "In the cloud of depression, I started to believe that others, people, were at fault because I was often more depressed at home than I was in other areas of my life," end quote. He goes on to state, quote, "I apologize for the ripple effects of losing an entire family in such a horrific way," end quote. A legislative committee Republican Representative Walter Hudson reportedly stated of this, quote, "If there's a way we can intervene and put them on the right track, that's obviously preferable to throwing them in a cage forever. However, there does need to be certain rational boundaries. Certainly, murdering your entire family with an axe would seem to be one of those acts." End quote. 53-year-old David was subsequently released on July 29, 2025, from the Lino Lakes prison to a work release at a halfway house in Twin Cities. He is not to return to the county of his crime, and he will remain under supervision and GPS monitoring for a time. But can you believe that? He murdered 4 of his entire family. But can you believe that? He decided to take out his almost entire family with an axe, even at 16, and is now free to live the rest of his life. That's unfortunate. To all those out there listening, really, be careful. It is a dangerous world we live in.